Hey everyone, and welcome back to my weekly fantasy football show. In this video I will be taking you through my last week's team, my current team for this game week including any transfers, and finally I will be sharing my thoughts on captaincy and differential players to bring in this week. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start off by reviewing my last week's team. It started off very poor after not owning Haaland, but the Monday night fixture did my rank just fine. Captain Salah was the highlight of the week, but Trent with 2 assists wasn't too bad either. I did however have a couple of players who didn't perform as well as I'd hoped. For example, starting Pedro Porro had me 5 points worse off than if I had Mings in my starting 11. Tony disappointed once again. He has now just scored 1 goal from his last 3 expected goals recorded. I have had a few bad penalty moments in the last few weeks. It started off with Salah, after which Tony also missed his pen, and the new addition to the FPL Bob penalty curse is Saka, who had his first miss from the spot in his time in the Premier League. Let us now move on to my current team for this week. So let's start with the goalkeepers. In goal, I've gone for Raya. I have no choice here since Kepa doesn't play this week. Raya isn't too exciting of a pick this week, since he has a tough fixture against Villa, who have been on top of their game in recent times. Moving on to defense, I've made one change from last week, taking out Pedro Porro for Tyrone Mings. Trippier has fallen off as of late after blanking in 4 of his last 5 games. For context, he had only 3 blanks up to Gameweek 21. His upcoming fixtures aren't bad, with only a couple of them rated tough by the FDR, so I wouldn't be considering a transfer out for him until the end of the season. Trent up next, who goes up against Forest at home. Liverpool have throughout the season looked better at Anfield, where they generally have a higher possibility of a clean sheet. Playing against Forest does also help the cause, as they have been one of the worst attacking teams in the last 5 games, averaging less than 1 big chance a game. Lastly, the newly brought in Mings to the starting 11, who faces Brentford, who have been making chances in recent times, however they don't seem to be taking all of them. Villa on the other hand have kept 4 clean sheets in their last 5 games, with Mings also picking up an assist and 5 bonus points in that time. In midfield, 3 of the 4 are unchanged from last week with the new addition of Eze. Saka has been falling off the last few weeks after just scoring 2 goals and providing 1 assist all in 1 game in the last 5 games. He has been overperforming his expected goal involvement throughout this season, and this trend has continued in the last 5 games. His teammate Martinelli has been in great form of late with just 1 blank in his last 8 games. He is the best Arsenal midfielder for FPL in my opinion currently, and he should be in your teams for the final weeks of the season. Salah, as opposed to Saka, has been underperforming his expected goal involvement, which is not the norm for the Egyptian. He is the most nailed in the recently heavily rotated Liverpool attack, and coming up against Forest, he is a serious captaincy shout this game week. I have made the decision of bringing in Eze this week for McAllister. After Veltman's injury and Cisco's current form, it is likely that McAllister goes back deep in the midfield, which would mean he won't be as involved in attack. If you do own him, I would suggest you look at replacing him in the next few weeks. I have gone for a Palace option because of their recent form and upcoming fixtures. I went with Eze over Olise because of the bigger goal threat, and he does generally do better whenever Zaha isn't in the side. Finally, in attack, all 3 of them stay from last game week. Kane with a disappointing blank last game week against Bournemouth. He has scored 5 goals in his last 5 games, and he might be playing his last game for my team. I will be looking to bring in Haaland next week for him, and the only thing that will put me off that is probably a double-digit haul from him this game week. Tony next, and as you can see, a disappointing last 5 games, underperforming his expected goal involvement by 2. There isn't a confirmed date for the court case yet, and until that is announced and he does avoid his yellow, I will be keeping him. If I was to replace him, however, I would look no further than Jesus or Solanke if you want to free up the budget. Lastly, the man in form Ollie Watkins with 7 goal involvements in his last 5 games, with 3 of them coming in the game last weekend. He goes to Brentford this week, who haven't been good at all at defense, while Watkins has failed to blank in his last 7 away outings for Villa. On the bench I have Kepa, Porro, Bodman and Mitoma. I currently only see Porro leaving my team in the next few game weeks, which will most likely be for an Arsenal, City or Brighton option. Finally, let's talk about captaincy and differential picks for this week. There are a couple of players who stand out for me as good options for captaincy this week, including Salah and Martinelli. Both have good fixtures and have been in great form recently, with Salah being slightly more favourable with more expected goals and Liverpool coming from a 6-goal thrashing last time they played. Martinelli isn't someone to ignore either. He has been given a 60% anytime return odds for this game week, and he has a slightly easier matchup. The fixture difficulty column is basically the addition of the team XG and the opposition XGC, and so the higher the number, the easier the fixture. In terms of differential picks for this game week, I'd recommend punting on Solanke and Jota. Jota, who scored 2 goals and picked up an assist the last time out despite his low expected goal involvement. He is just 1% owned, which makes him a great punt for the upcoming weeks with Liverpool's favourable fixtures. The only downside with him is his expected minutes, as he is likely to get rotated in the upcoming weeks. Another differential is Solanke, who has been in great form in the last few weeks and is surprisingly low owned. He comes up against West Ham next, who haven't been the best of teams in recent times, and with the recent form of Bournemouth, I fully expect them to come out of this game with 3 points. Another one I didn't list here is Eze. Him or Olise are very reasonable players to go for now, with their fixtures being quite explosive up to the end of the season. And that's it for this week's video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more weekly FPL content, and I'll see you in the next one.